Welcome to AI ConvoCast, where we bring you the latest in AI and tech innovation. Please don't forget to rate, review, and share if you like what you hear. Let's jump right in.
Today we will be covering 4 big stories. OpenAI's new ChatGPT experience built specifically for teenagers. Cursor's move to launch its own GitHub competitor called Origin. OpenAI's massive new data center deal in Ohio, and Google's surprising purchase of Spirit Airlines, internal data for AI development. Let's start with OpenAI, which just rolled out a dedicated version of ChatGPT for teens. Anyone between 13 and 17 now gets a different experience, with tighter guardrails around topics like self-harm, eating disorders, violence, and romantic or sexual conversations. Here's the part that makes this stand out. You don't have to tell OpenAI you're a teenager for this to kick in. The company uses an age prediction system, so if it estimates that an account belongs to a minor, it automatically places that person into the teen version. That's a meaningful shift, because instead of just adding another parental control toggle, OpenAI is using inferred age to actually change how the model behaves. Beyond the restrictions, teens get learning-focused features. Instead of just spitting out a finished essay, the idea is to walk them through their homework, with study help, quizzes, reminders, and visual learning tools. OpenAI's Allison Mishkin said the company looked for cues that might cause a teen to, quote, develop a relationship to the model, which tells you a lot about what they're worried about here. Critics, though, warn that slapping a friendly "for teens" label on a chatbot could give parents a false sense that the risks are fully solved when they're really not. Either way, this could become the blueprint for how consumer AI platforms handle child safety without demanding verified ID from every single user. Next up, Cursor, the AI coding company, is starting to roll out a product called Origin, and it's a direct shot at GitHub. For context, GitHub is where a huge chunk of the world's software actually lives. It's the place developers store their code, review each other's changes, and manage everything before it goes live. Cursor is now offering its own version of that, with repositories, pull requests, checks, comments, and two-way syncing with GitHub built right into the Cursor environment. Vercel, a popular hosting platform, jumped in at the same time with preview deployments for Origin projects. What's notable is the ambition. Cursor started as an AI assistant, living inside your code editor, essentially competing with GitHub Copilot. Now it's going after GitHub's role as the system of record for software itself, and it's designing the whole thing around AI coding agents from the ground up. Cursor calls Origin, quote, a Git forge for the agentic era, which is a fancy way of saying it's built for a world where AI agents are writing and reviewing a lot of the code. Because existing GitHub repositories can stay synced, developers can test it without a painful migration, and in theory they could write, review, test, and ship code without ever leaving one AI native tool. Moving to infrastructure, OpenAI just locked in an enormous data center deal in Ohio. It signed a 20-year lease with SoftBank-owned SB Energy for roughly 8 gigawatts of computing capacity. And here's where it gets eye-opening. Nvidia agreed to invest $1.5 billion into SB Energy and to provide guarantees of up to $105 billion backing the project's leases. To put the scale in perspective, this campus is planned around 10 gigawatts of new power generation, and a big slice of that, up to 9.2 gigawatts, would come from gas-fired power. That energy footprint is exactly what set people off online. In a widely shared discussion, one critic boiled the whole concern down to a single phrase, quote, 9.2 gigawatts of new gas-fired power. It puts AI's energy and emissions squarely at the center of the conversation. There's also a financial wrinkle a lot of people flagged. When a dominant chip supplier like Nvidia helps guarantee the infrastructure that's going to turn around and buy Nvidia's own hardware, that raises questions about circular financing. On the upside, OpenAI says the project could create around 35,000 construction jobs and 2,500 permanent ones, and interestingly, the site includes federal land that was once used for uranium enrichment. Finally, a story that made a lot of people do a double-take. Google won a bankruptcy auction with a $10 million bid for Spirit Airlines' internal data. We're talking de-identified business data, software and operational records, and Google says it plans to use all of it for AI model and product development. The scale here is wild. Reports describe roughly 100 million emails, 500 million Teams messages, 17 million OneDrive files, and about 30 million lines of code. Why buy an airline's internal guts? Because real corporate communications, Actual workflows and genuine software code may be far more valuable for training workplace AI agents than yet another pile of public web pages. But it also points to a new and slightly unsettling market for training data. Distressed companies and bankruptcy estates essentially selling off everything they've ever produced. That raises real questions about whether de-identified is enough to protect former employees and customers whose messages are in that pile. One commenter summed up the unease perfectly, saying it, quote, would have been less ominous if an airline bought the data. The fact that it's Google and that the purpose is AI training is what gives people pause.
Thank you for listening to AI Convo Cast. Please don't forget to rate, review, and share if you like what you hear. Thanks and hope to see you again next time.